there has been a release of some really depressing pictures from a stadium rally
You
in
mean
Marco
funny?
Rubio's home state. It is funny, depressing and funny, home state of Florida. We've talked about how Marco Rubio may not even carry his home state of Florida in next week's Republican primary election. He gave a rally at what I guess he hoped would be friendly and boisterous territory for him, and not many people showed up. The picture that's on the screen behind me is sort of framed and zoomed in a way where it's at least possible that there's a big crowd here. But actually, it was very, very far from that. Talking Points Memo posted a picture, which I'll show you now, which, as you can see, shows this huge stadium. There's not a single person in the bleachers. There's barely anyone on the field. And you basically have a crowd that Jason Carroll from CNN, I believe, described as a couple of hundred supporters not even filling the end zone. This is his home state of Florida, Lewis. And then the Washington Examiner's Byron York posted another image from the event.
This one
More
really
zoomed
shows you
out.
what it's like.
This really shows you the sort of sad nature of this. And this may be a strategic mistake, right, Lewis? I remember when I went to a John Kerry event in Massachusetts, in Northampton, Massachusetts, and they were holding the event at a restaurant called the Sierra Grill, a popular restaurant.
Yep.
And I said, wait a second, John Kerry's coming here. John Kerry's hugely popular. This thing is going to be absolutely packed. Why would you have such a small venue? And every political person I spoke to there said, no, you want a small venue. You want to turn people away because there isn't room. You want to say you can come in, but you have to stand at the back and, by the way, hold this sign. Because the worst possible thing in politics is a room that isn't full. And this just a complete strategic mistake on Marco Rubio's behalf, apparently expecting somewhere around 10 to 20,000 people to show up instead of 200.
Yeah, I suppose it just was a mistake by the campaign, of which there have been many as
Yeah.
of late.
Dousing himself in water, another problem, but maybe not a campaign problem, maybe just an issue of Rubio's thirst. But I want to say here, Lewis, I am praying, and I am not a religious person, I am praying that Marco Rubio stays in this race. It's bad. It's bad in his home state of Florida. In the latest poll from Florida, he's down 43 to 20, in second place at least, but down to Trump 43 to 20. We need him to stay in as long as possible to try to make it so the end result is a Republican convention choosing Ted Cruz as the nominee, leading Donald Trump to flip his lid and run as an independent. Maybe Democrats need to start thinking about, in open primaries, voting on the Republican ticket for Marco Rubio because we need him in there.
Well, maybe. But as we've seen, there have been some very close races in the Democratic primary. So let's be careful about that. But if anything, I would like Marco Rubio to stay in so we can see more pictures like these.
We also need to remember that there's this sort of crazy situation where if you say to me, David, if a Republican were definitely going to be the next president, would you rather it be Donald Trump or Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio? Obviously, I would rather it be Marco Rubio. He is by far the most reasonable of the three candidates that remain here. I mean, Donald Trump is running just a phony, authoritarian, crazy campaign. It's all nonsense. Ted Cruz believes he was anointed by God to be president of the United States to bring about the second coming of Jesus Christ. Rubio, in that context, is by far the most reasonable guy. However, I still maintain that in a national election, in many ways, Rubio is very, very electable. So I don't know. It's really complicated right now for Democrats in terms of who they would rather face. And as a liberal independent personally, I want to set this thing up to give the most progressive candidate, who at this point is going to be either Bernie or Hillary, the best shot at winning this thing.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer either, right? Complicated.
All right, after the break, we will talk to Michael Moss, Pulitzer Prize-winning Michael Moss, about how processed food and food deserts are very much a class issue in the United States. It's going to be fascinating.